What's going on, guys? Shane Baker with Shane Baker Studios, and I hope it's been an incredible summer for you, filled with creative photo shoots. And I hope the fall is looking really, really good with clients coming out of the woodwork for you. What I want to do in this video is share a quick tip that I hope can transform your editing and help you increase the speed at which you get at the quality that you're seeking in your own work. This is a tip that, quite frankly, I wish that I had learned years and years before I actually did. So let's go ahead and dive into it. What you're looking at right now is the exact same raw image opened up in two softwares. The one on the left is Lightroom, and the one on the right is Photoshop. Now, you're not going to notice a big difference between these two, but what I'm going to share with you is going to transform your approach to editing portraits. One of the most important things as a portrait photographer or a photographer who's taking photos of people in general, whether that's babies, weddings, boudoir, doesn't matter what you're doing, is skin tones. And one of the challenges that I had early on in my career was getting a washed out look to my photos. And I struggled so hard and for so long trying to figure out what it is that I was doing wrong. How could I compensate for that kind of washed out look that I was getting in a lot of my photos? And eventually I learned some techniques to help me out. It was with lighting, a little bit with the editing, and then what I learned later on from a full-time professional photographer transformed my approach and made it so much simpler and easier to solve the problem that I was having. So what I'm going to do is open up this same raw image in a third software. You may have heard of it, you may be using it, but if you're not, I highly recommend it in place of Photoshop and Lightroom. I believe that this software is superior to both of these when it comes to rendering skin tones. So let's take a look. This is Capture One. Now, look at this side by side. It's obvious that the image on the left is washed out, and you may not even notice it. It may not even feel like it's washed out until you look at this image opened up in Capture One. We've got the rich tones in her lips. We've got this rich color in her eyebrows, the hair, the skin. Now, obviously, this is an uncorrected, unretouched image. There's some things that we can do to fix, but comparing these two, it's obvious that we've got a better starting point when we open up this raw image in Capture One. So here it is in Lightroom. Let's go ahead and take the Photoshop, and I'm just going to open this up over here. Same thing. I struggled for so many years to get client skin looking healthy and vibrant, and I had no idea that the most popular software amongst photographers was working against me. Lightroom and Photoshop are amazing at what they do, but a professional photographer took a moment and shared a tip with me. He said, look, if you want to do this at a high level, none of us are using Photoshop or Lightroom to do our edits, at least initially with our clients. We're using softwares like Capture One. Now, there are a few others comparable to it, but it blew me away. You're going to have to spend a little money to get Capture One, but it's incredibly worthwhile, especially if the majority of your work has people and you're struggling with skin tones. If you're looking at these, this is just over here on the right in Capture One. It's just a better starting point. The colors are richer, you've got more to work with, and you're not fighting against the washed out look that you find here in Photoshop and Lightroom. That means that you can do less editing, less retouching to get the image where you want. There's not a whole lot that we need to do in this image on the right to get it looking incredible. Over here on the left, she's got kind of a yellowish tint to her, definitely faded out, and the colors aren't rich and vibrant. And that's something that you'd have to spend extra time and energy to figure out how to compensate for that. Now, imagine that you're shooting a photo shoot for a client and you have to multiply this by 20 images, 30 images. Maybe you're doing a wedding and it's 100 plus, maybe 1,000 images that you're going to deliver, and you're struggling against washed out, faded skin tones in every single one of those if you're using Photoshop or Lightroom to begin the process. Now, once you've got it in Capture One, you can do the edits, do some basic retouching, open it into Photoshop, go into Lightroom, do some more stuff, and the skin tones will transfer over. But as a starting point, this is definitely a better place to start. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Do I have to really subscribe to another editing software? And I get it, especially when you're already paying for Photoshop and Lightroom. It could feel like, you know what? Let me just stick with that. But if you're a professional or you're wanting to do this at a really, really high level, I cannot recommend Capture One enough. And in my opinion, it's well worth the monthly subscription to get a better, cleaner starting point for my portrait work. Not only that, but it also tethers much better to your cameras. We're not going to go into tethering right now. That's for a different video. But if that's something that you're doing or you're interested in and you're using Lightroom for it, Capture One is way better at tethering. I hope this tip is really helpful, especially if, like me, you really struggled with skin tones and it felt like you were wrestling every single image to help make the person look as bright and vibrant as they did in front of your camera. Capture One is a better starting place for your raw images. Cannot recommend it enough. Have a good one, guys. Take care.